Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be covering some huge expansion news from RIOT Blockchain. This is a company in the crypto mining space. We've talked about them before on the channel, and I'm really excited to talk about some of these recent updates. Now before we get into it, please take a second, hit the like button, you guys. It's a huge help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. And let me know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of RIOT, how you think they stack up to some of the other players in this space, and what you thought about this recent news. Now with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at RIOT Blockchain Incorporated. This is another one of the crypto miners here in North America, but these guys have a focus in the United States. Now the main event for today's presentation is a big capacity expansion announcement, actually breaking ground at a new facility. But I wanted to talk about a few different elements from their investor presentation that I thought were super interesting in today's video as well. Now before we get into it, this is as of close on Friday, October 21st. You can see very strong day for most of the crypto miners. RIOT was up about 4.5% or about 25 cents per share to close out at $5.83 US. And if you look at a market cap, they're sitting just shy of $1 billion. So really quite a bit player compared to Hut 8 or Bitfarms, which are in the $300 to $400 million range. And again, wanted to provide an update because I know this is a super popular play for anyone that has crypto mining exposure in their portfolio. Now, over the last 6 months, you can see very up and down in unison with the price of Bitcoin. We hit a low back at the end of June of about $4.19. And if you fast forward to the middle of August, we topped out just under $10 when we saw that bear market rally in the price of Bitcoin. Now, with that being said, RIOT, along with a lot of the other crypto miners, has dropped back. They're now under $6, flirting with some of those all-time lows or 52-week lows at least that we've seen over the last year. And I think this may be presenting a great buying opportunity, again, if you want exposure to the crypto market within your personal portfolio. Now, for those of you that missed our initial coverage or previous videos on RIOT Blockchain, I wanted to quickly jump over to the company website. I'll leave a link in the video description below, give you guys a little bit of a rundown in terms of what this company is all about. Then we're going to get into the big news that we talked about in the intro. So RIOT is a Bitcoin-focused company in the United States of America, supporting the Bitcoin blockchain through rapidly expanding large-scale mining in the United States. So a little bit of a different focus than some of the other companies we follow closely, like Hut 8, which is focused on Canada, and Bitfarms, which has that exposure in both North and South America. We're focused on expanding our operations by increasing our Bitcoin mining hash rate and infrastructure capacity, which we're actually going to talk about in today's press release. RIOT believes the future of Bitcoin mining will benefit from American operations and endeavors to be the driver of that future. So they're really invested in the vertical integration, and they've got a unique strategy, again, that kind of combines what we've seen from Hut 8 and Bitfarms. Now, before we get into the main event here, or the big article talking about RIOT's expansion, I wanted to level set in terms of their production and how they stack up to some of the other crypto miners we follow on the channel. So RIOT announces September 2022 production and operational updates, exact same as the other miners, you guys. They give a monthly update, and you can see here under the highlights, they produced 355 Bitcoin in the month of September and significantly expanded their hash rate to an all-time record. So that's why I say this is a high growth company focused on future expansion plans and really becoming a best-in-class miner in the crypto space. Now, if we scroll down to the bullet points here, you guys, you can see RIOT produced 355 Bitcoin in the month of September. That's actually a decrease year over year compared to the 406 they produced in September of 2021, which we're going to talk about. And in comparison, Hut 8 Mining produced 277 Bitcoin in the month of September, about 9.2 per day. And Bitfarms actually surpassed both of these at 481, or an average of 16 Bitcoin per day. So RIOT's kind of right in the middle between Hut 8 and Bitfarms in terms of their monthly production. Now the next points here are super interesting as well. So RIOT held approximately 6,800 Bitcoin on their balance sheet as of September 30th. So they stack up very favorably compared to Bitfarms here, but they still are slightly behind Hut 8 in terms of their overall Bitcoin reserve. But with that being said, they actually sold off 300 Bitcoin in the month, generating proceeds of about $6.1 million. So they've kind of got, again, a middle of the road strategy here. They don't have that same hold on for dear life focus we've seen with Hut 8, who's holding on to each and every Bitcoin. They are selling off Bitcoin, very similar to what we've seen with Bitfarms. However, the nice thing here with Riot is they're still bringing in net positive Bitcoin each month. You can see they brought in 355, they sold off 300, so they're actually ahead of the game by 55, and they've still got a significant reserve, so the company itself will fluctuate a lot more closely with the underlying price of Bitcoin like we see with Hut 8 mining. Now, as of September 30th, Riot had a deployed fleet of about 56,000 miners with a hash rate of 5.6 exahash, so a very impressive hash rate here. And as you'll see as we get into their expansion plans, that's expected to grow exponentially over the next couple of years. Now, they then go on to talk about some of the mining deployments and their equipment. So you can see they received about 15,000 new S19 series miners, including the first 10,000 shipment of their S19 XPs. We're going to look at some S19 stats towards the end of the video. And upon deployment of those units, that's going to bring their total miners to around 62,640 with a hash rate of 6.4 exahash. Now, where it gets really exciting here is if you look under the estimated hash rate growth, you can see by Q1 of next year, so only a couple of months away, they're expecting a hash rate capacity of 12.5 exahash per second. So huge numbers we're talking here. And in addition to that, Riot hosts approximately 200 megawatts of institutional Bitcoin mining clients. So again, you're getting some diversified revenue here in addition to their core mining business. Now, once they're at full capacity, their entire fleet is going to consist of these S19 series miners. And again, more to come on that in a couple of seconds. Now, with all that being said, now that we have a lay of the land, we understand Riot's business model, how it compares and contrasts to Hut 8 and Bitfarms, I wanted to get into the big announcement that came out on October 19th. And this is actually announcing the groundbreaking at their 1 gigawatt data center facility in Corsicana, Navarro County, which is located in the state of Texas. So we've talked about this news in previous videos here, you guys. You can see a picture of the team there at the groundbreaking, and this is going to be a massive milestone for Riot and marks a significant step forward in demonstrating Riot's ongoing commitment to positively impacting the rural communities that they operate in. And that's from the Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer, Chad Harris. The development of Corsicana facility builds on the success of the 700 megawatt Rockdale facility that we've talked about in previous videos, and when complete, will bring Riot's market-leading position to a total and an extremely impressive figure of 1.7 gigawatts of developed capacity. Now, the groundbreaking took place on October 18th, and this marks the first phase of this facility, which is going to consist of 400 megawatts with self-mining and data center hosting operations expecting to commence in the last quarter or fourth quarter of next year. And one other thing I wanted to point out here, you guys, if you scroll down, you can see the first phase of Corsicana is expected to consist of 4 100 megawatt buildings. So keep that number in mind. We're going to look at some stats towards the end of the presentation that breaks down production based on individual 100 megawatt units or buildings. And that's similar to how Riot operates at their Rockdale facility currently. So within this initial 400 megawatt phase, about 200 megawatts or half is going to be dedicated to self-mining or crypto mining operations, and the rest is going to be reserved for Riot's data center hosting business with those large-scale institutional clients. So a nice 50-50 mix here in terms of the operational focus. And if we now jump over to the company's investor presentation, you can see they made reference to this facility in their deck that was updated in summer here. So Riot's leading position enhanced by its 1 gigawatt expansion. This was initially announced back in April of this year, which is a 1 gigawatt development in Navarro County, Texas, which we just looked at. Approximately 270 jobs will be created, 41 exahash per second potential capacity, and again, a 265 acre facility, which is absolutely massive. So we just talked about the details of phase 1, which is at 400 megawatt capacity. They've got immersion cooled mining and hosting operations expected to commence in 2023. And this facility represents a capital cost of about $333 million, which they've spread out throughout 22, 23, and fiscal 24. So when we see the team at Riot selling off some of that Bitcoin each month, that's exactly where that money is going, is to fund the development, build out, and keep the lights on while they expand their hash rate over the next couple of quarters. Now this is the slide here that breaks down some stats on the S19 on an individual basis and on these individual 100 megawatt buildings. So that's the number I wanted you to keep in mind here. So you can see the estimated run rate over a 3-year period here, you guys. Per machine, you can see they start out at about 0.14 Bitcoin per unit. That drops to 0.8 in 2023 and 0.4 in 2024. So over a 3-year lifespan, each single S19 Pro unit is expected to generate about a quarter of a Bitcoin. Now you may ask yourself, why does the production drop so aggressively between years? And that has to do with Bitcoin halving. So that's a phenomenon about every 4 years where the difficulty on the network increases and the block rewards that are awarded to these miners is actually cut in half. Now, if you look at the direct costs here, you can do some quick math. So it's roughly about $2,800 to mine a quarter of a Bitcoin. So if you expand that out, you guys, you're looking at roughly about $11,000 to $12,000 US per Bitcoin to actually be produced over a 3-year period. So even at today's prices, which are extremely depressed, this is a very profitable investment, and it still makes financial sense to actually sell off some of that Bitcoin if you're using that to fund your overall growth or development. So very similar to how an oil company or a mining company operates. They'll mine gold, they'll pull oil from the ground, they sell it on a consistent basis, and that's what keeps the operations going. So initially I was very opposed to that strategy. I loved what Hashrate was doing with their hold on for dear life. However, if companies like Riot and Bitfarms are able to invest that money back in the business and see a bigger payoff in terms of their exponential hash rate growth over the next couple of years and really take advantage of this slow period to build out their fleet and their capacity, I think it does start to make a little more sense. Now, if we look at these facilities on a building basis, so per 100 megawatt building, again, you can see the Bitcoin mine decreases year over year. On a 3-year period, you're looking at about 7,500 Bitcoin and a total direct cost over the 3-year period in the neighborhood of about $79 million US. So if you run the numbers there and you actually divide that out, you're looking at an average cost per Bitcoin of $10,600 US. So I thought this was a really interesting slide and a really good way to lay out exactly what kind of production we can expect over the next few years as we continue to see more of these buildings and the S19 Pros come online and be deployed in the network. Now to close things out here, I just referenced these Bitcoin halving events. So you can see Bitcoin's fixed supply schedule is driven by programmatic changes in the block reward. Every 210,000 blocks, roughly every 4 years we've seen this happen, the block reward is reduced by 50% or cut in half, and that's why it's called a halving event. Following each halving, Bitcoin miners receive half the Bitcoin block per block mined. So that's definitely something to be aware of, is the production capacity and the difficulty of this production gets increasingly hard as time goes on for these miners. Now, all else being equal, the result is a reduction of mining revenue. The halving mechanism results in an ever decreasing issuance rate of Bitcoin as Bitcoin approaches its maximum supply of 21 million, which is currently estimated for July of 2141. So a lot of people have said, yeah, well, what happens when they run out of Bitcoin? Because of this halving phenomenon, you guys, and the fact that it gets increasingly difficult as time goes on, they're not expecting to mine the final Bitcoin for approximately 120 more years. Now, the key thing to keep in mind here is the first sentence. All else being equal, this will result in a reduction of mining revenue. So if you think about it on the first level here, you guys, you can say, okay, great. These companies are producing, say, 400 or 500 Bitcoin per month. If the difficulty continues to increase and their production is cut in half, therefore, they're going to produce half the Bitcoin in following years, and their revenue is going to be cut in half as well. But what we've actually seen here is the price in relation to these halving events doesn't stay static. So these are the previous halvings. You can see here, one took place in 2016 and one took place in 2020. And right after those halving events, Bitcoin went on a massive bull run. And that's why a lot of investors and people in the crypto community are really excited to see what happens in 2024, because that's when the next halving event is predicted or expected to happen. And these correlate almost perfectly with the huge runs we've seen in Bitcoin price. So at the first halving event here, you guys, back in 2013 on this chart, Bitcoin went from in the neighborhood of $10 up to $1,000, so about 100x return. If we then fast forward to the next halving event, you can see Bitcoin was sitting at around $1,000, ran all the way up to the 13,000 neighborhood, so about a 13x return. And then this most recent one in 2020, Bitcoin was currently sitting at around $10,000 at the time that halving took place. And that's when we saw that massive bull run all the way up to north of about $65,000 or $70,000 US. So that's exactly why the investment community and people involved in this space, including myself, are so excited about 2024. Not necessarily that the difficulty is going up or the amount of Bitcoin is going to be halved, but we expect a major price increase as a result of this programmatic shift. So a really interesting slide and a phenomenon that we've not talked a lot about in depth on this channel. Now, with that being said, I'd be super curious to hear your thoughts on RIOT Blockchain. How do you think they stack up to some of the other miners, specifically Hut8 and Bitfarms that we cover on the channel regularly? Are you currently holding shares of RIOT? And what do you think about this big expansion news? Now, if you're still watching the video at this point, hopefully you found some value, so make sure you hit the like button, you guys. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, McNallie Money, feel free to do so. That's all for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.